The courtroom was silent, dead, silent, the kind of silence that clings to the walls and holds its breath. You could hear the sound of polished shoes brushing against marble, the faint squeak of old wooden benches adjusting under the weight of a curious crowd, and the almost imperceptible hum of fluorescent lights overhead. But none of it compared to the energy that walked through the doors that morning. When Camille Devante entered courtroom 3D of the St. Louis Federal Courthouse, every head turned. 37 years old, her poise was unmistakable. She moved with the certainty of someone who had walked these halls not just in body, but in purpose. Dressed in a flawless navy suit tailored to precision, with a slim leather briefcase in her left hand and her FBI identification clipped neatly to her belt, Camille looked like authority personified. But authority, as it turned out, didn't matter to Officer Rick Danner. Danner, a white officer nearing retirement, had seen decades of faces walk through this building. But when his eyes fell on Camille, something in him snapped shut like a steel trap. He stepped forward, brows tight, jaw clenched. He didn't ask questions. He didn't even offer a perfunctory greeting. That ID, he barked, looks forged. Camille turned to him calmly. I'm with the Bureau. I'm here to testify. Bull, Danner growled. FBI doesn't send people like you in here. You don't belong. Before she could finish another word, he grabbed her wrist, twisted it behind her back, and slammed her against the oak railing just beyond the security checkpoint. Her briefcase dropped to the floor with a heavy thud. The metallic clang of handcuffs snapped through the room. Every attorney, every paralegal, every judge's assistant fell into frozen silence. Camille didn't resist. She didn't need to, because what Officer Danner didn't know what no one knew just yet was that within 7 minutes, his entire world would unravel. Camille Devante was not only a special agent with the FBI. She was the lead investigator in a year-long federal probe into corruption within the St. Louis Police Department. Her briefcase contained encrypted files, audio, video, sworn statements that would set off a seismic reckoning. And Rick Danner? He was on the list. As Camille sat in a holding room, wrists red from the cuffs, a younger officer named Jorge Amaro approached her cautiously. I'm sorry, he murmured, offering her a bottle of water. We didn't know. I didn't know. Camille didn't respond. She didn't need apologies. What she needed was justice. What had just occurred wasn't a slip in procedure. It was the mask slipping from a system she knew too well. Across the building, chaos rippled. Someone had caught the incident on their phone, grainy footage of Danner jerking a black woman in a federal suit by the arm, ignoring her ID and throwing her against the railing. The videos spread within minutes. Journalists flooded the lobby. The judge had no choice but to delay proceedings. But Camille? She returned. Straight-backed and steady, she walked back in a courtroom 3D. The same people who watched her humiliation now saw her power. She took the stand, the handcuff marks still faintly visible. She didn't flinch. For the past 7 months, she began, her voice a blade of calm steel, I have conducted an undercover federal investigation into systemic misconduct within the St. Louis Police Department. Gasps echoed as she inserted a USB drive into the court's secure laptop. The projector flickered. Then came the audio. The voice of Officer Rick Danner rang out through the room, unmistakable. If he looks like a gangbanger, charge him. Doesn't matter if he ain't got priors. Make him up if you have to. Murmurs erupted in the courtroom. Camille didn't blink. That's Exhibit 4A. There are 11 more. She presented timestamps, badge numbers, dates. Footage from altered body cameras. Memos doctored to frame young black men. Patterns of abuse that couldn't be denied. A woman in the audience, her hand over her mouth, wept silently. Her son had been one of the statistics arrested without cause, held for days, released without apology. Camille turned toward the judge. I request federal protection for the remainder of my testimony. I believe my safety is compromised. The judge, previously skeptical, gave a solemn nod. Granted. That day, Rick Danner ceased to be a decorated officer. He became a defendant. But Camille's mission wasn't over. The next morning, She returned with a second USB drive, this one marked with red tape. The courtroom was packed. The media had latched onto the case, and the city was watching. "I filed an emergency motion this morning," Camille announced, "authorized by Special Director Aldridge of the FBI. It includes testimony from a confidential whistleblower and documents implicating Officer Rick Danner in a broader conspiracy to obstruct justice and silence witnesses." The judge allowed the video to play. It showed Danner in a dim parking lot, passing a manila envelope to another officer. Inside, falsified statements and cash. Camille turned toward Danner, who now looked pale and clammy. "Is it your voice saying, 'We own this city'?" Danner stood, eyes wild. "This is a lie. She's setting me up." But no one defended him. The courtroom had seen enough. The judge's gavel struck. "Officer Rick Danner, you are hereby ordered into custody for obstruction of justice and conspiracy against a federal investigation." Camille stood as deputies placed cuffs around Danner's wrists the same way he had done to her. "You didn't think I'd have the last word?" she whispered. But even that moment was only a beginning. Camille worked alongside civil rights attorney Dana Washington and Officer Jorge Amrano, a witness cooperating with federal agents. Together, they reopened a 5-year-old case. Officer LaMarcus Wells, a black rookie who had tried to report abuse before being found dead in his apartment. Official cause, suicide. Unofficial, something far darker. The investigation grew. Camille traced a web of corruption not just through St. Louis, but across 3 other jurisdictions. She sat before Senate panels. She rewrote policy manuals. She testified behind closed doors and in front of cameras. Rick Danner was convicted on multiple counts. His badge, once a symbol of untouchable authority, now lay in an evidence locker. He was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. Camille's work earned her promotion to Assistant Director of Internal Investigations. But honors weren't the goal. Change was. One rainy afternoon in Birmingham, she sat across from her mother, now retired, arthritis stiffening her hands. On the kitchen table sat a photo of her father, smiling beside a much younger Camille. Her mother reached over, voice cracking. "He'd be proud of you, baby." Camille didn't answer. She didn't need to. For the first time in years, she felt the tightness in her chest ease. Not because the fight was over, but because she was still standing. This isn't just Camille Devontae's story. It's a mirror held to a society that still struggles to see past bias. It's a reminder that justice doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it wears a suit, walks alone, and endures ridicule to do what's right. Because justice doesn't arrive with parades. It arrives quietly, with bruises, with long nights, with a single voice saying, "Enough." Camille showed us that voice. What will you do with yours?